Well, across Ghana's 16 regions around the world, you're watching me, Sweetie Abochi, live on the AM show. And this is the news review segment. This morning, I've been joined by three gentlemen to help us review the newspapers. Although we don't actually have newspapers, we'll be going to the online portals this morning. But again, I want to congratulate everyone watching us this morning. It's the last day of the year. You made it through. Congratulations. Right, so let me quickly introduce my guest to you. Starting via Zoom, we have Wisdom Dogbe joining us. Wisdom is a financial analyst. Good morning, Wisdom. Okay, while we try and connect with Wisdom, let me introduce my guest in the studio with me. We have Gideon Tete. He is Greater Accra Regional Director for Conflict Resolution from the NDC. We also have Dennis Apiala Biampofo. He's a member of the NPP Manifesto Committee on Education. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I do want to circle back to Wisdom and see if we can connect with him. Wisdom, are you with us? Good morning.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Good morning. Great. So usually we'll give our guests 2 minutes to walk us through any topical issue on their minds they want to reflect on. But because you're in studio with me, let me go over to Zoom and then I'll come back to you. Wisdom, let's get straight into your 2 minutes take for us this morning.
Sure thing. So this morning, I'm just thinking about, the mandate the good people of Ghana have given to His Excellency, President-elect John Mahama, and expectations are high. And the first news item on your show this morning was about the president appointing competent individuals to key positions. And I'm very certain the president will surround himself with the right experts to advocate for Ghanaians. It's going to be hard work, to get our economy back on track, but I have no doubt the team will execute. I'm particularly keen on what we do with the energy sector. It is in distress, as we all know. So those who will be appointed to the sector, from the minister to the CEOs and even directors, their work will be cut for them to address and improve, our energy generation and distribution. I think that it might make sense, really, for a company like VRA to be led by a finance expert, not an engineer this time, because the challenges they face at VRA, those are mainly funding challenges. We will need a finance, strategic leader who will bring in the needed funding to modernize, our single cycle thermal plants, make them combined cycle to about double the energy produced, using the same amount of fuel, and reduce greenhouse emissions in the process. That will also reduce the VRA's dependency on the national budget to give, some fiscal space in the sector. There is the argument that VRA is last to be paid in the price waterfall mechanism, so that discourages infrastructure investment by the VRA. We can solve that, sweetie, by renegotiating the contracts with the IPPs. Stop the IPPs from trying to negotiate power deals with Togo and Benin, and keep that exclusively to VRA. When you do that, VRA will no longer look mismanaged. Look, the challenges of VRA are financial challenges caused mainly by the cost of fuel. And here we are today, we are generating enough steam from the thermal plants, enough to serve as free fuel to generate 50 to 100% more energy. And I believe the JM administration will take advantage of, some of these low-hanging fruits. And my intel shows that we can double or multiply our energy output within 2 to 3 years for a quick win for the nation. We should also keep all VRA subsidiaries under VRA, but make them independent so they can raise their own funding, and also to increase operational efficiencies, for the individual subsidiaries and also for the parent company as well. Then finally, we need to improve employee morale, because I heard that due to several political recruitments at VRA, a lot of qualified staff have been overlooked for political recruitments. Even some of the new hires I heard do not have offices or desks to use. And we also need to develop the political will to stop the galamsey operators at the lake and allow the private company who already have the equipment at there's a place called Ametokope, to start dredging the lake to secure the banks of the people living there. VRA is a company that must be revamped. It is too critical for the nation, and I have no doubt that the right experts and the right amount of funding, including FDIs, with that we can turn things around and make it an enviable energy company across Africa.
Right. Wisdom, I see the wisdom in wisdom. I see the wisdom in what you said about a financial expert heading energy sector. But if you're talking about experts heading the various sectors, wouldn't it augur well for us if we actually let an energy expert head that sector? I mean, because of the policies and all those ambitious plans we have, as you said, the work is already cut out for them. They'll know how to ground it in scientific and technology realities. Would you agree?
So you have a great point. If you're not feeling well, what do? You go see a doctor.
Yeah.
If you have money, you want to build a house, what do? You see a builder. So the current problem that is facing the energy sector is really not about their expertise or the technical expertise to generate power. It's about financial management.
Right.
For instance, I zeroed in on VRA because their main challenge as of now is financial issues. And that's why you need to bring the expert in that area to turn things around for them.
Thank you, Wisdom. Hold for me. Let me get back in the studio. Gentlemen, let me start with you, Mr. Ampofo. What would be your 2-minute take?
Well, thank you very much. It feels good to be back in the studios after quite a very big chewing.
It's been restful for you, hasn't it?
I'm not going to.
It's been restful for you because you've not had much to do, have you?
I've had a lot to do.
Oh, okay. I thought since you lost the elections, you're not waxing lyrical all over the place.
So I think that for us it feels good and okay to be back to the studio. Ghanaians have spoken. It was a resounding voice, a very loud one that requires that we do a lot of introspection. So for us at the New Patriotic Party, there's a lot of work going back, rebuilding our structures and ensuring a good reform to our party, touching base and correcting some of the flaws that we have. The truth is that in an election, the winner thinks he did everything right, and the loser thinks he did everything wrong. So there's a tendency to think that whatever we did in the election or prior to the election was wrong. It serves as a caution to us as a party to be very careful introspection we do and the kind of analysis we do. We must delve into the issues critically as a party. Ask ourselves the very fundamental questions. Do not blanket the issues. Pick it constituency by constituency, region by region, and ensure that the preparations and the reforms that we're going to propose are one that would have long-lasting firming and strengthening of our party. Okay. Beyond the party lines to going into government 2025, Dr. Baumia mentioned something that we're going to be a very constructive opposition and not an obstructive one, not a destructive one. I can assure the National Democratic Congress that the MPP that we would be a part of in the next 4 years would be very, very constructive. One of the key things is that as part of our being constructive, excuses is something that we are not going to pamper. Bed of excuses is something that the people of this country, having given an overwhelming majority to the NDC, will not pamper.
Is that something that, wouldn't it be disingenuous on your side if you say you're not going to pamper anyone, if you're going to pamper excuses? But I would wager you that this particular year or this, should I just go back the last 4 years? We have actually pampered some excuses from this administration, have we not?
The truth is that the person who has been voted for knows the presidency very well. He knew the presidency when he made the promises. He knew the presidency when he promised to retrieve $18 billion through oral, which is a good thing for this country, isn't it? He knew the presidency when he promised that the likes of AIS, Ghana International School, SOS Heman are all going to be added, those are private schools, are going to be added to the free senior high school. He promised to eliminate COVID.
It's just, I get
emission
we have
tax,
to make headway.
tax.
Yes.
So for us,
I'm saying that.
Now
that you're preparing to enter opposition, if your strategy is not to pamper excuses, I'm just saying you should be fair to the incoming administration.
I'm asking you, do we have to pamper excuses?
I asked the questions on here.
The good thing is that it is a rhetorical one. You don't need to answer it. Ghanaians at home.
Right.
At home have a certain...
Land on that point for me.
Ghanaians at home have a very simple assessment of politics and governance. And it is a message to the political class, not just the NDC, not just the MPP, all of us, that once you promise the people that you will eliminate double track in 100 days, you would complete all Agenda 111, you would ensure that your on-cap gets fund. You would build a new stadium in all regions. You build a new university in all new regions.
An example, if I get
and still ensure that you retrieve 18 billion for Ghanaians. You have to.
So you're watching with eagle eye.
We will be doing it with you.
All right, thank
you. Not going to help us?
I mean, let's bring you into the conversation. I don't know if you want to respond to what he's saying, but you have your 2 minutes now.
Well, Sweetie, thank you very much. Let me say good morning to our viewers. Indeed, we are happy and glad and thankful to Ghanaians for voting massively for us in Greater Accra for the first time unprecedented under the auspices of Emmanuel Ni Ashimor. We chalked 31 seats, which means that if you are, I can imagine the MPP regional chairman for Greater Accra is only going to manage 3 seats. That will mean that it's going to be hardship for him in Greater Accra. And of course, based on the hard work of our constituents, we have decided we awarded them with motorbikes, freezers, and TVs. On top of it all, Ablekuma South and Okwankwe South are going to Dubai on the 4th of January. We are intentionally taking them to Dubai before the handing over so that the MPP will not tell us that we are taking money from the state coffers. It is money that we gathered for ourselves, raised funds for ourselves, and make sure that our constituents are rewarded massively. And that is what has brought us this far. And now we have chalked 31 seats. You know that today, the mandamus application is going to be heard by a new judge at the High Court.
Yes.
After here, I will take off my dress and wear my legal apparel and be in court, just to make sure that indeed our the mandamus application will be heard. Of course, our side will also has been filed, and then we hope for the best. Of course, the law loves never. And you see, let me correct what my brother said. You see, we have 10 policies that we said we are going to implement in our first 120 days. All the things that he's saying are not true. The 10 policies, which is already there, we said, first of all, we will nominate our list of cabinet ministers in the first 14 days. Then we also said that we would ensure a leanest and most efficient government in our first 90 days. And then we also indicate that there will be a code of conduct and standards for all government officials, which means that as a government appointee, you would have to live in a certain style, not any lavish or opulent style. Right. We also indicated that we are going to
read out all the 10 policies.
But I just want to state clearly that the things that my brother mentioned are...
But they are parts of the promises, the campaign promises of your... That's clear.
But not part of the...
Let's get on to myjoyonline.com now and do some stories. I mentioned we don't have newspapers. So the first story I want to tackle, WAEC releases 2024 WASI provisional results after delays caused by indebtedness. The story reads, the West African Examination Council has released the provisional results of the 2024 West African Senior High School Certificate Examination. And the delay in releasing the results earlier this year was due to unpaid funds owed by the Ghanaian government to WAEC for services rendered by the council. I don't know if we all have been following. I think the first payment they made was about 20 million. And then I think 25th December, John Kapi announced that they had received 35 billion. It still doesn't, I think there's still more. It was a total about 101 or 15. I'll get a figure in a bit. But so far, you still owe about 60 or 51 million. But the results have been released. And I don't know how you feel about that, Dennis. You were on the education committee of the NPP manifesto. These delays have caused problems for parents, students. In fact, Legon had to admit students without their WASI results. What do you make of it?
Well, first of all, I think that it is unfortunate. I have said that the education sector is a sensitive one that deserves all the attention it can have. It's unfortunate that we have had to deal with the situation of debt at WAEC. What has orchestrated this debt or has caused this debt is the government's decision, both decision, to ensure that WASI and BEC registration does not become a financial impediment to young people trying to write their final exam. So over the years, the Akufo-Addo government, Akufo-Addo government has made it a point to make WASI registration free, BEC registration free. it comes with its own financial implications.
Is that not why we end debt?
That's my point. It comes with its own financial obligations. But you see, truly, leadership is a matter of choices. It is a decision to invest in the education of young people. It would come with repercussions. The repercussions is that government will take on debt or will take on more financial responsibility. And government chose, the Akufo-Addo government chose the point of ensuring that the cost is eliminated and government bear the challenges and the headache of debt. So this ordinarily was never the government headache to go by from the initial stages when we inherited the government of this republic. But as a matter of choice, we thought it wise and believed that the education of this country is paramount and must be number one, and that should be key. And that is what we did.
So looking back now, would you say that was the best way to tackle it?
If I'm president, I am not. If I'm minister, I'll take the same decision again. Why? Because you see, all across the world, one of the biggest barriers to accessing education is cost. And the moment you eliminate the cost barrier, you are able to ensure that a lot more of young people have access. So if you ask me, between people dropping out of school or not being able to write their final exams, as against this delay that came, they are both not good. The delay is not something that anyone should be happy with, but I would choose this delay over that. That said, it is the responsibility of government to honor its obligations, and that is what government has done. The end of the matter is that the results has been released. What is the kind of results that's been released to? It's also important that we look at. The kind of quality that we are producing is also important. Why is it important? Because now the young girl from Kumpese does not need to think about going to find money for her final registration.
And you know, there's been a lot of cancellations, results have been withheld, the performances over the past 3 years or 4 years have seen some decline. It's not been as good as, previous years.
As good as when are you benchmarking?
Hold on, I'll find out.
Because the benchmark I have here, if you look at 2024 current results, the English language 69.52% pass, mathematics 66.86% pass, integrated science 58.77%.
Which years? Which
2024. I'm giving 2024. Then social studies 71.53. In every standard, if you have an average of 69.52% pass in English, I think that is a good work done by our students and our educational community. It may not be 100%, but for a young, growing educational society like our own, if you look at our history, if you look at what we've done, there are times we've fluctuated. Last year's performance was better than this year on the average. I give that true and I agree. But if you benchmark it, I believe that on the average, there's been a huge improvement in our core subjects over the last decade. And that is very important that we underscore.
According to WAEC data, over the last 10 years, there has been a fluctuating trend in performance with a noticeable decline in mathematics score, while other core subjects like English language, integrated science, social studies have shown variation, some improvement, and sometimes dipping in performance across different years. And I'll get you the actual data in the course of the
No, I have shared that.
Yeah, Gideon.
Yes, Sweetie.
But you can't just limit it to 2020.
No, I'm talking about 2021.
Yeah, Gideon, let me get a reflection on that. Then it's past that.
Before I respond to today is, we, as tradition as a party, we have 31st December Revolution commemoration. And of course, it's going to happen at 8 a.m. at the Nongwa Town Park. The legend flight lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings still lives. Sweetie, you see, I'm surprised that my brother is seeing that. You see, how much did you see Wasi, the old government owes Wasi?
About 118 million Ghana cedis.
Ghana cedi.
Yeah, 118.
The financial scandals that we have.
No, but part of that has been cleared. That was the total debt.
But I'm telling you that the reason why they are still owing, they can't pay, is that the financial scandals we have accumulated under the umbrella of Aura is close over $18 million.
18 billion.
Oh, no. 18 billion, that's fine. So $18 billion. Even if it's a million, it is even more than yours. $18 billion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm helping you.
So you can imagine that if we are talking about the $58 million National Cathedral Sinkhole, that alone can settle that debt that this government owes. That has been the character of the Akufo-Addo government, and that is why they chalked 38%.
All right, thank you. So let me interject, okay? Yes. This is important. 2014, there was a low start in terms of the pass rates in percentage. We had 31.28%. 2015, slight improvement, 38.68%. 2016, significant leap, 52.97%. 2017, momentum continues, 59.22%. 2018, a setback, 48.15%. 2019, back on track, 64.18%. 2020, slight growth, 64 to 65. 2021, that was record breaking, 81.70%. And just give me a second, let me find the remaining all the way to 2024. Please go on.
Yes, so Twiti, by the time we are done with oral, over 18 billion, all the debts that this government owes that they have refused to pay, we will use those money to settle them.
All right, thank you.
And so, you see, we must begin to understand that that is the reason why Ghanaians rejected this government, giving 38%. 38% is an F. It's not even a D, not a C. You know, 38% means that you have failed. And that is what Ghanaians did to them. And so, Ghanaians must be rest assured. We know that Akufo-Addo government, we've decided to set some, trap for us, but we are not perturbed. We will definitely
let's stick to facts here.
Overcome.
Let's stick to facts here, Gideon. But hold for me. Let me go to. It's okay. Hold on a second. Wisdom. What do you make of the delayed results that have now been released and the debt that is owed WAEC?
So I think it was a serious one, right? And I have a different opinion from the comments my brother in the studio, Dennis, made. If I recall correctly, back in early July also, there were concerns about if the government would be able to make its payments of about, I think that time it was about 50 million cedis that was required, to successfully organize the exams and pay some debt. And the government made that payment barely days before the exams. Yet we have millions of dollars to spend on projects that are sole sourced. Some of these projects, you struggle to reconcile the benefit with the real needs of the people. In fact, a friend of mine sent me a very disturbing document recently about, how certain actors in the current administration are colluding to have the finance minister to sign a lucrative contract worth about 1 billion cedis for a certain Takrade Air Force drainage project. This is a huge deal for a drainage, yet we are struggling to pay about 100 million cedis so our younger ones can get their WAEC results on time. Are we not playing with the future of our children? If we don't handle some of these things with top priority, so I tell you, we are playing. This should not even have been on the news in the first place. It should have been paid long ago and resolved. If we are serious about prioritizing education and developing a skilled and knowledgeable workforce ready for the global stage. As for the results that are being held or cancelled, I think it's saddening to hear, and I hope that the officials at the exams board, they are taking everything into consideration and not wrongfully cancelling results.
Thank you. Now, let me just add a story to the conversation. School feeding caterers besiege gender ministry over non-payment of arrears. And this is also coming from enjoyonline.com. Scores of caterers under the school feeding program staged a protest at the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection yesterday, demanding payment of arrears for 2 academic terms covering 2023 and 2024. And the caterers traveled from various parts of the country, and they claimed that despite assurances from the Control and Accountant General's Department that funds had been disbursed to the ministry, they have not yet received any payment. And they spoke to Joy News correspondent Prince Kwame Kudoga, and the president of the school feeding caterers, Nana Sechiamwa, described the situation as dire and citing that the amount owed them by the government is substantial. We're still in debt, gentlemen, but let's put a pin in this. Let me go to graphic.com, do some stories there before I come to you so we can cover more ground. There's a story here about the president to deliver final message on the state of the nation, yes, on the 3rd of January 2025. President Akufo-Addo will deliver his message on the state of the nation in Parliament on Friday, ahead of the dissolution of the 8th Parliament on January 6th. And the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic will be dissolved on Monday, January 6th. And then I think 2 days after, or the second day, the 9th Parliament will convene at 11 p.m. to elect a speaker and 2 deputy speakers. We're looking forward to who those will be. Any quick reflections on these stories? Dennis, make it brief for me.
So first of all, I think that it is important that my brother Gideon realizes that the promise to the people of this country is to retrieve $18 billion. What that means is that it is enough to finance our budget, such that we may not even necessarily need to tax the good people of this country. And you and I and the people of this country will be holding them onto it. My expectations really is that the 222 million used to build the Bank of Ghana that has been cited as part of the 18 billion will be retrieved. Isn't it a good thing? Why will I be angry with that? It is a good thing. So that people like our young people don't even have to pay for transportation again. The 18 billion is an expectation of this country, but he need not make any mistake. No one is creating any traps for anybody. John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, knows this office more than any of us. He knew the challenges in the office.
What's the agenda here then?
I'm coming.
No. I don't mean any malice. I want to understand where you're coming from,
I'm getting
because I could, off the top of my head, I remember the promise of by the end of my tenure, Accra will be the cleanest city. Nobody was actually matching the election results.
For that. What's the election results?
What point are you getting?
I'm trying to let you know that because he did not do that, Ghanaians have voted against him.
Right. And the moment that you are entering opposition, you're vehement. Okay.
No, all I'm saying is that the good people of this country are not ready to take excuse. Someone is setting a trap.
I read a story. This is a news review, right? I read a story about caterers.
No, I'm just correcting something.
Wait. Hold on a second. Let's do this. Let's have a conversation. I read a story about caterers besieging the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection over unpaid debts.
Sweetie.
I also talked about President Akufo-Addo set to deliver his last state of the Union. Hold on, Dennis. Hold on. Let's calm down.
Oh, I'm enjoying.
I was expecting you to reflect on these 2 stories, particularly because we just spoke about WAEC and the debts there, and we are talking about caterers under the school feeding program who are also owed some substantial amounts of money. And you go to talk about how the incoming administration must deliver on the mandate or the promises they made about recovering 18 billion. I'm struggling to see the connection, is all I'm saying.
So let me tell you the connection. When he started, you asked him, is he going to respond to some of the things I said? It is only fair that I respond to at least something that he said. And I'm saying that he made an accusation, and it's a huge one, that the MPP outgoing government is setting traps for the NDCs coming. And I'm saying that nobody is setting any trap.
Okay.
No one is interested in that because it is good news for us if they do well.
Okay.
It is good news if they retrieve the 18 billion. But let us not deceive ourselves that nobody can take it away from Mr. Mahama that he knows the office. He knows that debt management is part of the office because when he was leaving, he left school feeding, school uniforms, math sets, examination, a lot of these debts. So he knows and understands it. So these excuses of a creation and architecture of excuses will not suffice because the young people of this country have huge expectations. And that is where you come in to say, let's some of the things that my government did not do, and I agree with you. That's why my government was voted out.
All right.
That's why they've been voted.
So until they start making these excuses, should we not stick to the issues as...
No, but the excuses have started. He told you that we are setting traps. That is an excuse. Yes, it is.
Okay, then let's focus on these 2.
So now I get the opportunity to respond to the issues. All I'm saying is that when I'm responding, allow me, just like you allow him. But now to the issue of school feeding debt, I am one who's been a strong advocate for school feeding right from my days as NUC's president. And I'll give it to you here, that I believe that it is not just about paying the debts, it's also about improving on the deliverables at the school feeding. And Dakwa Newman the minister spoke yesterday, and she made it clear that the first tranche that was paid, the first term that was paid, they shouldn't worry. The second and third that they are complaining about that you read is also being processed to be paid to them. But I think that these delays are not good for business people.
Do you know what's causing the delay? Because they said the Control and Accountant General said they've actually disbursed the money, but
exactly. That is why I think that these.
I'm asking if you know. You're on the.
No, I don't know. If I know, if I knew,
okay.
I'd rather.
All right, thank you.
But like Gideon, I'm saying, let me end that.
We know we have to do this in time. Gideon.
You see, the conduct of Dennis shows that the MPP, they have not learnt. They have not seen the mess they have put Ghanaians into, and so for Dennis to speak on behalf of MPP means that they have the effrontery to now tell us or dictate to us how we should govern this country. Look, this is the time for the MPP to shut up, quote unquote. Excuse my words, but excuse my French. Really? To keep quiet and focus on their wounds, lick their wounds, and realize that they have put us in this mess, and that is why they got 38%. And that is why we have to test majority, and that is why the MPP in Parliament will be infinitesimal in terms of decision making. Look, sweetie, you and I will not be discussing debts if indeed this government had done the things that they promised to do. Today, we are, instead of we as a country thinking of moving forward.
I don't know if we would not be discussing debt. Maybe it's about the magnitude of it. But I think debts.
But the point is that the magnitude. You see, the magnitude. The public debt is already over 700 million. And then we are talking about.
So maybe we are talking
about scandals, corruption, stealing, thievery, over $18 billion.
About the caterers.
So you see, so you see, instead of we as Ghanaians or as a government continuing from a good, platform, we now have to go back and go and retrieve stolen monies. Because you see, governance is a continuum. If indeed this government had done things right, we will not be here talking about that. By this time, all this would have been paid. By this, because obviously, looking at the stealing that has happened, if indeed corruption was zero, right, we would not be talking about small debt that we have to pay.
All right.
And so you see, sweetie, I am only here to tell you that it is now that we are going to be sworn in. I was giving you the 120 our policies for our 120 days, which you didn't want me to finish. And I was trying to say that, look, once we are sworn in, we know that we are not going to have more than 60 ministers. These are the ways to make sure that we manage our funds. And when you don't have money and there's so much debt to pay, you must start tightening your belt. So our first tightening of belt is to make sure that we have the leanest government. Now you see, all because of the mess of these people. Now, apart from that, we are going to make sure that all these nuisance taxes are scrapped off. We will also go to make sure that
we publicized enough.
But sweetie, that is the solution. But that is the solution to all these debts.
Great, I got you. Let me go to Zoom now. Wisdom Dogwe, maybe you touch on your expectations of the president's final speech, but I don't know what your reflections are. Let's get into your thoughts.
So on the caterers' debt, the first thing I would say is this is the reason why we've been talking about reviewing the free SHS policy. It's a great policy, but it needs to be reviewed, and improved. That's how I look at it. And I think we should decentralize the school feeding program by itself to make it work better for everyone. Now, on the last SONA, I think our president has presided over a significant, economic downturn and widespread corruption. So I suspect that his last SONA will be characterized by acknowledgement of failures and economic challenges for the most part. Hopefully, he discusses the impact of his difficult economy on the citizens, and he needs to also address the level of corruption his government. He can at least acknowledge challenges, right? If there's no much appetite, to take full responsibility. You see, I think the president is very keen on what his legacy may be. So I expect him to also adopt quite a defensive tone, justifying past decisions and policies, arguing that they were made in the best interest of the country, despite the outcomes that we all saw. I won't be surprised if we hear about, more blame shifting, blaming external factors, including COVID and the war in Ukraine as the causes of the economic difficulties in the nation. Look, despite the challenges the president is leaving behind, we will hear a bit more about this free SHS policy that we just talked about and other notable items that, they consider as huge achievements. But I hope it will be a SONA that calls for unity and healing and a pledge to cooperate, with the incoming administration to identify and prosecute outgoing corrupt officials.
Thank you, Wisdom. Let's go to City Newsroom now. We don't owe Ghana Airport Company Limited $3 million. That's Magdan Aviation is saying. Private air charter, I believe we all saw the story yesterday. Private air charter service provider Magdan Aviation has refuted reports claiming a 3 million debt to the Ghana Airports Company Limited that allegedly led to the closure of its private jet terminal at Kotoka International Airport. And we know that it's not the first time this is happening. And Magdan Aviation clarified that 2 million of the reported debt is tied to a piece of land purchased from Ghana Airports Company Limited, which is currently under litigation. Let me not go on and on with the story. Just quotes, we do not owe 3 million at the terminal. There are 3 things we have been in discussion with the Ghana Airports Company. The tunnel is one. We also have a piece of land we acquired from them close to the Action Chapel area for which they demand grant rights. And the bulk of what is supposedly owed them is cut from that, but have been in conversation with them because that land, even though we acquired it from Ghana Airports, is the third party that acquired the same land and got their documentation through the Lands Commission. So it is under litigation. We all know the story. I'll go around and take your quick reflections on this, and we should be wrapping up. Let me start with you, Gideon.
Yes, I'm just surprised that a key financier of the NPP is being chased over debts, but obviously it means that there's a wind of change. Of course, it is good that he has cleared the...
How do you know he's a key financier?
How do I know? Obviously, we know he's a key financier. That's how come they gave him that place. So this one is a known issue. But
if you have facts to show,
but it's a key financier. It is the reason why he was given that place to manage that private airport. Yes. Well, how come you? What did you do to warrant that place? So I'm saying that the bottom line is that he has explained, he has broken down the debts that is being owed. If indeed the land is under litigation, it's just a matter of returning that land to the company, and then whatever debts he has to pay, he must pay. Obviously, it's not just a matter of breaking it down, but it's a matter of making sure that you pay. And so it is good that he has indicated that there's a land, and so that land, once that land is returned, his debt will be reduced. If there are other issues that can be returned, which is not really a matter of cash, he can return those ones, and automatically whatever he has to pay will be small, and then he pays it, and that's it.
All right. I must put out that the comments of our guests are their opinions and not a reflection of what our opinion as Joy News or the Multimedia Group Limited. Dennis?
Yeah, I think that it's quite unfortunate that Gideon will take that position. He's a Ghanaian. I'm not spokesperson for Magdan, but he's a Ghanaian.
Yeah, he doesn't use a Ghanaian.
You don't do this on live TV, on national TV.
He's a key financier. That's something.
I'm saying that let's
can I?
Dennis.
Gentlemen.
Respectfully.
Proceed.
So I think that it is not fair to the person of Magdan. It's really not fair, and I'm happy that you came in to correct him. He's a Ghanaian, first of all, so you don't tie his business fortunes only to some political climate or political affiliations that you purport without evidence. And that is some kind of condescending posture that is no good. I'm not surprised that he tells us
I
believe that it is that same posture that makes him thinks he can tell us to shut up when it comes to the running of this country. He thinks that we cannot tell them how to run this country and we should shut up. But I can assure him, we won't shut up. We won't shut up because there's a reason why democracies are founded on multi-party systems. That whereas one party is voted out to go out of office, it has a responsibility as a opposition to provide credible opposition, constructive and not destructive ones, to the good people of this country, because they are not saints.
So the Magdan Aviation,
it's very, very important that we clear that. And again, Wisdom on Zoom made some statements, and I think correction is important since it is in the educational space. School feeding programs is not part of the free SHS. It is not. They are two different entities. The school feeding program operates under the Ghana Education Services basic school program. Free senior high school debts or whatever is happening in free senior high school has nothing to do with school feeding. So I beg him, when you have issues, do not obfuscate the matters. Do not bring school feeding to attack free SHS. Let our free SHS rest small. Because school feeding has nothing to do with free SHS.
Right.
It's very important that Wisdom, from his point of neutrality, gets that. I believe that Magdan's situation is purely a matter of business. And as from someone from the business community, I think that businessmen should be left to do their business without so much of the politicking. If a businessman owes and his creditor is taking actions, it should be treated purely on the business scope. We should not keep doing this to businessmen in this country where we want too many times bring the politics, smear them if he owes and his creditor has taken an action. It should be settled within the business atmosphere, whether legally or through an arbitration. Whichever way, it must be treated as business. We do not do politics, so much of it, the partisanship of it to it. Because you and I on TV speaking about our political parties. Magdan does not come to TV to speak for MPP or NDC. Guess what? When His Excellency John Mahama was voted, as part of the CEOs who went, Magdan was part. I may have my issues with him, but can't we decouple the politics from some aspect of our country? Must every young person in this country smear everything that happens in this country with some dent of politicization? Why are we doing this to ourselves? Okay. Someone builds a business and we want to sacrifice it on the altar of partisanship. I think it is not fair.
I think when
he owes,
right?
He owes, or he doesn't owe, whichever it is.
It's business.
We should speak to its business. Okay. How many business people in this country do not owe?
Hold on for me. I think when the story broke yesterday, the reactions that were coming in, most of them, it's just an expression of surprise that this man is purportedly a billionaire, owing millions, you see. And I think I even saw Uncle Bendo Chemalo made a comment like that on Facebook, that how does a billionaire get, owe 3 million? Let me go to, hold on, gentlemen, let me go to calm down. Wisdom, what do you make of the Magdan aviation situation and the airport, Ghana Airport Company shutting down because of 3 million Ghana cedis?
I was also surprised to read a story about, having their private jet terminal shut down. Apparently, it's owing some money, even if it's not at $3 million, which they deny. Look, in this, let me do a little bit of politics here to the surprise of my brother Dennis in the studio. Look, in this Akufo-Addo government, both the poor and the ultra-rich are all in debt, and it's unfortunate. One thing, you see, someone mentioned this to me yesterday, that Magdan is a powerful businessman aligned with the current government. And so there could be some political ramifications here. You see, the timing of the terminal shutdown could have political consequences if all that we're hearing about is true. Could it be an action that they took, as a signal that there's a change in alliance or internal conflict within the ruling party? Nobody knows that. We can only speculate. That is one way to look at it. Or it is purely a business decision by the Ghana Airports Company Limited, just like Dennis wants us to believe. Look, I wonder why they waited until the debt accumulated, if it is indeed true, to that amount before taking action. Would they have taken action if MPP was going to remain in power? Personally, I think these actions should have been taken long ago as precedent for accountability, even for the rich. That is how the authorities should handle debt and financial obligations, even among influential figures in society. So if this was done much earlier, maybe it might have encouraged, stricter enforcement of financial agreements and lead to increased scrutiny of the financial practices of other businesses that are tied to the government.
Okay. The final story I want to do, I know you will have a lot to say. Calm down for me. The final story I want to do is for us to take a look at the full list of those who were honored yesterday. And I'll get to it in a bit. Yes. So let's look at the 2024 National Honors Award. Which one of those who were awarded yesterday surprised you? And what was the highlights for you yesterday? That would be how we are wrapping up. Dennis, let me start with you.
Okay.
Were you surprised? Were you impressed? What was the highlights for you?
Sweetie, one of the nicest things we had this morning, that Wisdom admits that he's doing politics. It's very, very important he admitted that. But Wisdom, it's very important that whilst you admit that you are doing politics and you are not neutral, it's very important that we get to know that this country cannot ground to a halt because we are about to change government. When government is owing WAEC, we are seated here from Gideon and yourself from home, seeing that government should pay WAEC. But when someone is owing government and government is going after that person, then you believe that there is some level of politicking with that. And I'm happy we put that to rest.
Well, I guess that's an argument you can make, but yes. We have just about 2 minutes.
Yes, so on my highlights, I'll talk about my highlights. Yeah. My highlight is Daddy Lumba's honors. It's very important that Daddy Lumba's flowers were given to him while he's alive. He deserves that truly and duly, as probably one of the greatest who's walked the space of music. And then Dr. Richard Boadu from Get Fund. The work GetFund has done from moving scholarships of 333 to over 5,000 from projects dotted around the country which were uncompleted to the emergency projects to our STEM schools to some of the amazing things that they've done and the groundbreaking edifice of the headquarters that is being built at GetFund. I truly expected that the GetFund boss, Dr. Richard Boadu, is honored, and I was happy to see that happen. Aside that, Daddy Lumbe's own was one incredible one for me personally.
Okay, great.
That I saw as a highlight from this.
All right, Gideon.
Oh, did he?
Highlights. I wanted to read out the full list, but we don't have enough time, so make it brief for me.
Well, what surprised me was...
just let me put this out. If you want the full list, you can find it on myjoyonline.com, please. Yeah.
Yes. What surprised me was the reward of Honorable Howard Kumsin, the outgoing member of Parliament of Iwichu Senya East. Obviously,
what's surprising about it?
We all know the kind of violence and lawlessness and incompetency exhibited in the constituency. And looking at the fact that, in 2020, there were even gunshots fired at the registration center in Kaso and all that, and yet President Akufo-Addo awarded her. It's worrying. And of course, Dr. Baumia, with this, appalling performance, and that is how come now they have 38%, and in Greater Accra they have 2%, and also the fact that and the fact that we have 187 seats, just because Dr. Baumia is the flag bearer or the presidential candidate for the NPP, and look at the abysmal performance, and yet he was awarded. And of course, it looked like what at all were they actually rewarding? And you see, it looked more of rewarding the NPP apparatchiks more than even people who, more of the NPP apparatchiks than even the Ghanaians who have really worked hard and deserve that award. But
you
anyway,
don't think this
we are not surprised.
Purely based on merit?
And Sweetie, let me tell you something.
Answer the question. You don't think it was purely based on merit?
It's not merit. When our Kumsin known a figure of violence.
Thank you, Dennis. I wish we had more time.
About to talk about the elephant and the medal.
I wish we had more time to get into
the medal.
this.
What do you see the medal?
What's terribly wrong with it?
What language is, or what is the meaning of the elephant?
That is the ignorance on the part of
ignorance. Hold on one second.
Has been used. That emblem has been used since 1960.
Let me get final comments from Wisdom Dogbe. Gentlemen, please, let's Dennis, let's do this. Gideon,
I knew you.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
I knew you would do this.
Dennis, Wisdom, hold on. Please mute them for me. Wisdom Dogbe, let me get your reflections on this quickly.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Look, I will say congratulations to the recipients of these awards. Those of them that who were deservingly awarded these honors for the work they truly did. Congratulations to them. I think it's a matter of pride to be recognized with such national awards. And I want to make sure that we don't belittle such milestone for some of the recipients. But there were some recipients, sweetie, who shouldn't have been invited to the event in the first place, let alone be given awards. I will end it there.
Do you want to give me two names so I have you on record? Just
all right.
two names.
I won't give you two names, but I'll mention this quickly. Then we can go. Quickly. Those that, served on the Economic Management Committee and led the nation to this level of economic downturn, and those that led the nation into more doom. So some of those things were still there, and they should not have been invited even to the event in the first place.
Thank you so much. Now, the opinions expressed by our guests do not represent the views or positions of Joy News or the multimedia group. That there is Wisdom Dogbe, financial analyst. In the studio, we have Gideon Tete. He's Greater Accra Regional Director for Conflict Resolution from the NDC. And we also had Dennis Appiah-Labi-Ampofo, member of the NPP Manifesto Committee on Education. Gentlemen, thank you so much for spending a bit of your morning with us.
Thank you very much, Sweetie.
Well, you're watching the AM show on Joy News. We'll be back with more Say for Sports after we get into our big stories. Keep watching.